And I could also, I could say, I could animate this. Like I can say this guy, to this guy, add image strip. And so now you can see my flashy animation there. And I could make these move around. I could also animate the positions of them, but animate the seeds. And that is not going to print well. So I said, well, this part is symmetrical. And so if I just cut it in half and then mirror the remaining half and then join them back together, mirror the good half over, and then combine them back together, that would work. Now I could use the, theoretically, I could use this guy. Oh no, that's mirror. I can use this guy to cut it in half, right? Start split. And so now I have that half, and then I could duplicate it, and then I could mirror it, right, and then position it. But what happened, I already did this once, and no matter how good you put that, when you slice it, you get a seam up front and rear, like it's a parting line on a plastic part, even though it looks right here. If we were to take the time to wait for it to slice, and maybe we'll come back to it. So what I did was I decided I wanted to do it in Rhino because I know Rhino a lot better than Blender. I just encountered a little teaching moment here, and I'll show how I fixed this problem using Rhino, more specifically Grasshopper, and then a little bonus Grasshopper fun. It shows to show how awesome Grasshopper is. Really, you could probably do this in, not probably, you could do this in Blender, which is very powerful free software. Rhino does have a free trial period of, I think, 90 days. And then it was like $800 when I bought it. Well worth it if you're going to do any CAD. Like if you're going to invest in a real CAD program, Rhino is really good. Unless if you need to do like manufacturing drawings, if you may want to spring extra for like a SolidWorks or a Fusion 360 or a Solid Edge or something like that, or maybe Onshape. I don't really know how good Onshape is with drawings. Probably pretty good. I think it's by the same guy that originally founded SolidWorks, so I'm not sure of that. But anyway, Rhino just doesn't have the built-in GD&T stuff. And maybe it has some of it, but I know there were some things missing. But anyway, of course, I'm spoiled because I have SolidWorks too, and so I use SolidWorks for any of my drawings. But anyway, meanwhile, back at the ranch, I have this Starship 3D print model that you may have seen me printing live. And so one of the parts here has this hole in it. Now here is where I repaired it, and that's what we're going to show here, is how I repaired this model using Rhino. And so here's what I needed to repair. So if I tell this to slice, notice where the hole is. You can still see. You can actually still see it very clearly right here. And watch what happens. Remember how high this hole is. It's almost there. And that is not going to print well. So I said, well, this part is symmetrical. And so if I just cut it in half and then mirror the remaining half and then join them back together, mirror the good half over, and then combine them back together, that would work. Now I could use the, theoretically, I could use this guy. Oh no, that's mirror. I can use this guy to cut it in half, right? Start split. And so now I have that half, and then I could duplicate it, and then I could mirror it, right, and then position it. But what happened, I already did this once, and no matter how good you put that, when you slice it, you get a seam up front and rear, like it's a parting line on a plastic part, even though it looks right here. If we were to take the time to wait for it to slice, and maybe we'll come back to it. So what I did was I decided I wanted to do it in Rhino because I know Rhino a lot better than Blender. And what did I not? Thought I just anyway. Because I know Blender. So basically, I brought the file in. That is not the original file. That is not. so I brought the original file. Now I'm confused as to which is the original file, so I'll just bring it in again. So I'm going to go to this folder, this guy, and I'm just going to drag this SS Cone Black in here, and I'm going to insert the file, and OK, and OK. I like just clicking OK. I don't need to look at those things. I'm joking. Of course, at some point, I had looked at those things. And so, where is it? Did I put it on layer? No. It should be on this layer. Oh, because it's up in the air. I forgot about that. Whoa. Insertion point, 0. Okay. And I forgot it's up in space, so I couldn't find it for a second there. I'm just going to drag that down super easy in Rhino. And so then, what I have going on here is the Grasshopper canvas within Rhino. And so ultimately, I am going to create a mesh. I'm just going to duplicate what I already did to create a mesh container, they call it. So if you double click on the canvas, it's a search, and let's say it's a line, and now I have all my line options, right? Or not all, but this many of my line options. Sometimes it get a little tricky to find your commands, but it's usually workable. And so this is what they call a container. So this is a mesh container, this is a curve container. It allows you to go into the actual Rhino model and reference the Rhino into the Grasshopper algorithm. So I'm going to say set one mesh, select that guy, and now this is no longer yellow. See, it was yellow. I'll do it again. This was yellow before, and if I click on this yellow part, floating parameter mesh failed to collect data because I didn't tell it to collect data yet. So now this one has collected the data of that. And so if I select this and then I put it on a layer that's already turned off, like default, now I can't see it anymore. But if I turn default on, now I can see it. And so, but if I select this, I can highlight it here. So this is actually, like, this is no longer selectable here because that layer is off, but I can highlight so you can see this is sort of a reference to the mesh in there. And it to the point where if I move this or even scale it and then turn that layer off, this mesh now is referencing the original. So I'm going to undo that, and shut that layer off again. All right, so now I have that, and then I want to split it. So I happen to know, so this is X, Y, Z coordinates, right? Let me get them oriented right. X, Y, Z coordinates, and I want to cut it in half here, chop off the right side, mirror it, and then combine them. Now, in theory, I could do that in Rhino, but I was finding it trickier, and I'm more used to Grasshopper within Rhino than I am with Rhino itself. And so I need to create, I'm just copying my own script down here. I need to create an a YZ plane. So if I just type YZ plane is my first option here, and I'm going to hit enter. And then I want to say mesh split plane, mesh split, and there's a few options here, and now I want this one, mesh split plane, and here's the mesh, and here's the plane, and now now it's two meshes. So if I do this, I can just so the inputs are on the left, outputs are on the right, always, if they exist. And so now, oops, above and below. So now I have this guy and this guy. I have two separate halves, because this guy, here's the mesh, here's the plane, here's the split the mesh, and here are the two meshes. And so I can basically ignore this guy and use this guy, and then I'm going to mirror. I can do mirror 3D, or I can do mirror 2D. Or just mirror, I should say. And it's not a 3D mirror in this case, so I'll just do that. And oops, and this is the geometry that I want to mirror. And the default plane is already the YZ plane anyway. That's surprising to me, but it is. So anyway, so now I have that mirrored, and then you can see here I have a mesh join. So I'm going to go mesh join, up one, enter, and So that's not going to do anything yet. I need to do this guy and this guy. And if I hold the shift key, I can connect two nodes. So you see now there's two nodes connected here. So now here, this is one thing. So if I go in here, it says N1, meaning there's one item, branch with one item, mesh, and here's the stats for the mesh, like the size or whatever. You know, the number of vertices and faces. Yeah, for 34K vertices and 64K faces. I'm sure that adds up. Oops. All right, so there's my, now that's my repaired mesh. And then I just go export. And oh, no, I need to bake it first because it doesn't exist in here yet. So I need to bake it. And I go bake, and it asks me what layer. I'll say layer 5 because that one's by itself, I know. And so now I have this repaired mesh. And if I export it now, one thing I don't like about this model is its mesh, because I printed it out and now it's all like kind of low poly. You know, it's high poly, but it's poly. So anyway, select. I would just export, enter, and we're going to call this repaired 2, just because I already did it once, but I'll show you that it works. And so then if I go back into my slicer, and I grab this repaired 2, drop it in here. So now this is repaired 2. I can see that this says repaired. It doesn't tell me enough to say it's repaired 2 because it doesn't show far enough. That's annoying to me when programs do that. And they don't let you have all this real estate and they don't let you stretch it out. But it is what it is. Happens in a lot of software. It even happens in SolidWorks a lot of times. It's super annoying, especially because I was like $8,000 when I bought it. Well, I paid $7,000. It was $8,000 when I bought it. They gave me a deal at $7,000. So that guy's here. And so now if I, so I'm going to just delete, oh, I split that guy already. I'm just going to delete that and slice this. And so now you'll see this guy's the hole in it, and this is the repaired 2. And that should slice nicely, and you can take my word for it. We'll come back to it. But I want to go back to Rhino and just have a little more fun while we're in here. So I'm going to turn this layer off so there's no Rhino entities showing. Everything that's showing is going to be Grasshopper entities in Rhino. And so, okay, one thing I did here is I created this curve, this loft, I'm sorry. And so what I did is I created a spline and a spline and a spline. And that's super easy. I mean, I basically just did this command here. All right. And then I did it again. And then I just Control C and V to copy it, and I move that over here. And oh, interesting. Oh, I was gonna. I meant to do those in a different plane because I was drawing in 3D. It just assumed I was doing the top plane, but that's fine. I can just rotate this like this. And it doesn't even have to be perfect. Rotate this guy. And then I'm going to, again, select my curve, make curve container, and copy it over a couple times. And set one curve, and set one curve, and set one curve. And then I'm going to do a loft. And I'm going to put these 3 curves into it. And I might get them in the wrong order. Shift, again, shift and drag to hold the, okay, that worked. Interesting, okay. I'm going to make it a little more interesting. Alright, so we have this funky shape loft. Super easy to make. And very editable. Where'd you go? This one? Yeah. So I can, I can move this around, and it updates super easy. right? And so then, and like I could even do like a render, although I didn't give it a color yet. Shaded. Okay, and so we have our loft, and then I want to populate this loft with a bunch of points, because what I'm trying to do is take my original, where are you? My original mesh here, and I want to populate it all over that curved surface. And so the way I did that is this populate mesh randomly. So I'm going to go populate, oops, just going to go pop rand, and that gives me my first option. Just a lucky guess that would work. And so then I'm going to say this is my mesh, but that's not going to work because it did work. Oh, all right. Well, before I used this command, which I guess wasn't necessary, which was mesh to brep, mesh brep, turn a brep into mesh. Brep means boundary representation, and it just means it's a NURBS. Somebody correct me if I get this a little off. It's basically NURBS curves based geometry, mathematical geometry, not instead of mesh, which is a bunch of triangles or quads, squares, not squares necessarily, but quads or however many, just lines and points. So no actual curves, whereas the NURBS actual curves. So NURBS give you much nicer. So that's what I was saying on the, if I go back to my 3D print, you can see here, we have that flaw. But when this prints out, you can't really see it in the slicer, but I can see it on the print that it's like, see how it's a bunch of straight sections? That's because it's mesh based and not NURBS based. So if I ever redo that, my own Starship, I'll do it NURBS based. And this slicer, you can actually, some slicers you can't, but this slicer you can bring in step files, which are NURBS curve based files, and so then your print doesn't have that jagged edges. It doesn't show up. It shows up a lot more on the part than it does on this image. Trust me. But anyway, so back to here, and so now I have a bunch of points here on this curve, and I can tell it how many points. Number of points default is 1,000. I don't want 1,000 points on there. Let's start with 111. That's going to give me a slider from 0 to 1,000. I'm going to say there. And so that seems like a much more reasonable thing to copy that thing over 1,000,000 times. And so then I'm just going to I am going to basically I'm going to connect this same mesh to I'm going to move, I'm going to move to point, right? And then my geometry will be, I can either like drag this line all the way here, or I can copy this guy. I kind of like doing this. I can copy this guy to here, and then move this up to here. And now I have a reference of that, and it's the same exact piece. And if I click on this, I can see it. I could also do what they call a relay, which does almost the same thing, but if I highlight it, it doesn't show the piece. So I find it better to use the container again. Might use a little more memory, I'm not sure. But anyway, so here's our geometry, and I need the point at the center or somewhere. I need a point A to point B. So point B is going to be all these dots, and you can see that I can, if I change the number here, I get more and less dots. And if I do another, so just any number, so 33 just changes the pattern. So if I change this is giving us 30. This is giving 82 points everywhere, in every instance, just giving it a different pattern. And so now I can go from the point A to point B, but I don't have a point A yet. So point A needs to be, I'm going to call it in the center of this, or the centroid they call it, which I need the volume command. And then I put my volume here, and then it's telling me that my volume is this dot here. And my centroid, I should say, my volume is going to be a number, and my centroid is going to be that point. Let me just show real quick how this works. So if I go panel, I can use text and numbers as variables basically. And so this will show you the number, the volume of this is 35,304. I assume that's milliliters. And the centroid is going to give you a point. Yeah, so it's like 3 numbers, which is the X, Y, Z coordinates, centroid point. And if I highlight that, it's not going to show the point. But if I highlight this, it shows the point. See how right here, going away, going back? Anyway, so then I'm going to put this centroid to the point A. And now, our mesh is populated with those guys. And there's a lot of cool things I can do from here. So like I did, what did I do? I scaled them. I scaled them next. And so I could do a scale command. SC. I could do a scale, or I could do a scale NU, which scale NU means non-uniform. And so they get all stretchy. And so why don't I do that? Why don't I go scale NU? No, I'm just going to go scale for now. And I'm able to do a scale NU later. I don't want to overcomplicate it. So I'll go scale. This is really neat. So here's our moved, and here's our geometry, and our centers are already here. So I'm going to put that to here. And then the factor, I mean, I could just say 2.2 or any number. And so now they went from this big to this big, right? But they're all the same. That's boring. And so what did I do over here? I did a scale, and that was random. When did I how is that randomized? The factor. Here we go. So yeah. So I have a list and I have a random. Yes. So I have a random. And yes, this is going to be my scale factor is going to be random. So my random is I have to give it a range. So I think I want to go like, where did I go? Right here. So I want to go like, where did I go? I said domain before, right? So if I construct domain, and I go to here, and domain start is 0. Actually, so I want domain start to be, let's see, 0.4, and domain end to be, say, 6.6. That's probably a little high. I'm going to bring it down to, say, 3.9, just the heck of it. And I'm going to punch these into here and here. And so now I have a domain, I have a range. So my range, if I click on this, it says 0.4 to 3.9. That's these two numbers. And then random, and then factor, and what did I do different? Is it different? What did I do? Random. I have a list. Oh, yeah, I have only one. So I want whatever number of instances I have. So that was, I believe, 82. So I'm just going to put here integer container and put the number to it, as I did before with the other command, whichever it was. Move this over here. Number. I want to plug this into number here. The number of random numbers to generate. And so now they're all different sizes, and literally all different sizes. And if I wanted to make like 2 of each size, I could make this number half of. I could do some math. Like I could just go like division. You won't really be able to see this, but I can do math here, and I could go put a node here and go this and say 2. And so now the number is So this number is what? Oh, did that wrong. And so this number is 41. So 82 divided by 2 is 41 different numbers. So if I do that, so if here I have 82. I don't know if you can see that. 82. And this guy is 41 because I divided by 2. And so now I have 41. I have 41 random numbers instead of 82. You see 41 right there. And so no big deal. But you can see these are all just scaled randomly, and I can mess with the various seeds. So there's a seed for the random number, and there's a seed for the random on face, and so that was this guy. So if I adjust this guy, they'll move around. Whereas if I adjusted the seed on this guy, so if I gave that a 33, and the seed on the random guy, the random is controlling the so they're not moving positions, they're just changing scales when I adjust the seed. So anyway, so that's kind of interesting. But you're saying, oh, but they're all the same color, and they're all just this highlighted green. So what I did here, all right, so let's give it some color. So I'm going to select all and say preview off. Okay, except for, I'm going to find this loft again. I'm going to say preview on, and then I'm going to turn everything on. And so that's that color. And I can just leave that red, I guess. And I could say this guy, let's turn the preview on just for the moment. And so that red is just the default colors. But if I go custom preview, that's not what I wanted to do. CUPR custom preview. Okay, and now if I go to here and hide this guy, that was interesting though. Oh. Okay, so for whatever reason, when I highlight that, they go to that interesting gold. Only if that was an interesting color combination. So anyway, here is my material, and like I could go swatch, color swatch, and that allows me to choose this color, and I can move this guy around and say over here, and I could even make it a little transparent if I wanted to. Accept. So that's how the color swatch works. But again, all the same color. Now in theory, I could make 41 color swatches, adjust them all manually, and they'd be all different colors. Or I could make 3 different color swatches, and 3 of them would be different colors, and the rest of them would be whatever color, however that would work out. Now, what I did here is I did RGB and a random and a random and a random. Okay, so the red gets a random number, the green gets a random number, and the blue gets a random number. But I want them to be all different numbers. And so the color, red goes 0 to 255, green goes 0 to 255, blue goes 0 to 255. And that's how it determines the colors, those 3 numbers. You may know that from other CAD stuff or digital coloring stuff. It's the same here. But I don't necessarily want them to be the same number. I think that'd just give me gray. Would that just give me gray? I think maybe it would. Who cares? The point is, so what I did here is for the seed number. Oh, I think I meant to do it on the number. But that's okay. It's just the same outcome. So this is the default. So the seed is 0. And then this one is a 1, and this is a 2. And the way that works is I right-click on here, and I say expression, and you see x plus 1. And right here, if I go expression, and I go x plus 2, enter, enter, enter. Anyway, it's already there. And so that's 2, that's 1, that's 0. And so now, if I plug this guy, into here, look at that. And I can mess with this seed and they'll pop all over the place. And this is basically like all the colors, possibility for all the colors that the computer is capable. So I don't know, what's 256 times 256 times 256? I guess is how many colors it is. I mean, that's got to be at least 9 zeros, I think. I don't know. There's a lot of colors. And so, yeah, I think that's pretty neat. And I could also, I could animate this. Like I can say, if I say animate, and then I say go, it's just going to keep going through. And what it's doing is it's putting an image, it's putting a new image into each of these, into this folder. GH animate. Okay, let's find that. Let's see, design local, GH animate. And so you see here I have all these images here, and I can probably just go into Blender from here. You can see I was messing with this in Blender too, but if I change to let's see how this will. So if I go video, yeah, video editing. Okay, I was already messing with this in here. Okay, I'm just going to grab a bunch of these. I'm going to drag them to here. So I found that they were there. They were just, the dates were weird. But this is not quite doing as I was hoping. So there's like a add image sequence. Yes, nice. No. So that was up to frame 500. So I don't know what the deal is with. So I'm just going to grab this guy and this guy to this guy, add image strip. And so now you can see my flashy animation there. And I could make these move around. I could also animate the positions of them, but animate the seeds. I mean, so as you can see, I could animate the seeds on the scales. I could animate the seeds on the number. I could animate the seeds on the random. I could animate, but you can only right click on one number to say animate. So you might have to do some math if you want different numbers doing different things. You might have to do it with a little bit of math to reference, to have one main number and have the other numbers reference off of that. That takes a little bit of ingenuity, but as you can see here, it's pretty easy to work with. The sort of the important thing is your level of creativity. So anyway, Rhino, super cool program. Like I said, I can move this around. It changes everything. Right? Very cool program, Rhino. And I mean, I could even like have this node be all the same shape. I could have a bunch of different shapes, and it's random which one it chooses. Probably do that with like using list item, so many other things. Anyway, just a quick little Rhino, more Grasshopper tutorial for you there. Maybe you learned something. If you find that interesting, let me know in the comments if you'd like to see more Rhino Grasshopper content. I do like fooling around with that. I'm not sure how much demand there is for people to watch this stuff. There are also some other good Grasshopper tutorials out there. and you might want to check those out. But let me know if you want to see some other ones, and if you have any ideas of what you'd like to see how to do it. The original, a little history on it. I think the guy's name was David Rutten. So it's McNeil and Associates is the company that makes it. What's the guy's name? McNeil. Not Bill McNeil. That was Phil Hartman on the news radio. Real deal, Bill McNeil. What's his name? Steve McNeil? I don't know. McNeil and Associates. And they did Rhino. And then this guy, David Rutten, he was like a student, I think, at the time, and he decided he wanted to make Rhino into basically SolidWorks or similar. And so he was really trying to go, the story I hear, so he was trying to build a sort of, a parametric machine design modeler in Rhino. And the way it played out is it just got super popular with architects. And so it's very widely used in architecture, as I understand it. Like if you see these really funky shaped buildings with organic shapes and weird things going on, a lot of those I think are with Grasshopper within Rhino. And there are a whole bunch of different plugins for it. Like I have some here: elephant, shape diver, squid, pufferfish, elephant, weaver bird, kangaroo, two, nautilus. I don't even remember what most of these do, to be honest with you. I just saw it, I was like, oh, I can do some cool things with that plugin, and so I put it in. Or I was trying to do something, and I'd ask for help, saying, I can't figure out how to do this, and they say, oh, you need this plugin, and there's all kinds. You go to foodforrhino.com, it's called, and they have all kinds of plugins, and a lot of them are free. Some of them pay, but a lot of them are free. Really cool community. They have really great great chat server. I was so confused. I always thought it was a Discord server. And then when I actually went to a Discord server, I was like, this is not a Discord server. And it turns out there was like Discourse at McNeil or whatever it was. And I confused that with Discord. But they have a really great user community forum there. And people are very helpful there. A couple people might be a little grouchy, but that's like that on any forums, right? But plus, if people help you, they get the right to be a little grouchy, don't they? And anyway, super cool program. So David Rutten, I think his name is David Rutten, created this plugin, and I believe he now works at McNeil Associates. I'm sure they gave him a pretty good deal. Of course, he had to work somewhere, but he made this great product. And I know I would not have bought Rhino. I didn't even know Grasshopper existed. Somebody asked it was on Reddit a bunch of years back, showing this crazy geometry that I could never make in SolidWorks. And I think I'm pretty good in SolidWorks. And I mean, I've been using SolidWorks, I don't know, maybe 15 years. And crazy geometry. Let me see if I can show something real. Yeah, I can do it from here. If I say Rhino Grasshopper and search for images, and the images that people make with these are just unbelievable. And I just randomly, this is just, I don't even know what we're going to see. I'm just randomly looking at things. Like, look at this, for example. Now, if I click that, this is an annoying thing about the variability. See, like all these holes are different sizes. Try that in SolidWorks. Not easy, if at all. Variability, a lot of variability. This was the one. See, the size of these holes are all different, and you can control this so amazingly. And even like these lines, like why are these exaggerated lines, and over here there are no lines? Like, it's just such a cool piece of software. Anyway, so that is actually my favorite CAD software, although I use SolidWorks pretty much all the time. But I do like fooling around with Grasshopper, so I always like to find an excuse to fool around with that. So anyway, I hope you found this video interesting. If you did, maybe you can click the like button and share with your like-minded friends, and subscribe, and maybe hit the notification bell if you're a glutton for punishment, and leave a comment If you have any questions, requests, if you'd like to see more of this, if you hate it, whatever. It's all good. Thanks for watching, and hope to see you in the next one.